Todd Piro with us today. The president speaks to the nation tonight, but he leads a very divided party.
And I'm not in the business of giving Democrats political and electoral advice, but he better get this together if he wants a shot of winning in 2024, because there's even talk that these pro-Hamas, let's call them what they are, pro-Palestinian, but in effect pro-Hamas factions, are not going to vote for President Biden, going to get their people to not vote. Well, a lot of these individuals are in very, very important swing states. So if that happens, he has a huge electoral problem. But on the bigger picture, we need to come together as Americans right now. And this pro-Hamas faction of his party is really causing problems for our response ultimately at the end of the day. And I wonder what the Chuck Schumers of the world, obviously a very pro-Israel member of Congress, thinks about this and how he is going to get the president to bring these groups together. If you hear the language of people like Rashida Tlaib, I doubt that he can ultimately bring those factions together. And that is definitely something to watch next year.
Yes, it is. I've got a poll, brand new poll, and it was taken after Hamas attacked Israel. Look at this. Biden's approval near a new low. You're down to 37%. Wow. And that poll was taken after the Hamas attack on Israel. Now, that really surprises me. I thought he'd maybe pick up some ground.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I thought he would get a huge bump from Israel, not necessarily because his responses have been overly presidential, but let's face it, it's been an okay response, so much better than a lot of his foreign policy responses that we've seen thus far in his administration. I think the big takeaway from that is the economy, no matter what's happening in Israel, is still number one, has been number one, and will continue to be number one. And if he's not rising, that is a huge problem for him, because now people associate his economy, Biden economics, with negativity.
I think you've missed something. I think the public is responding to some degree to Biden's demeanor. This is a wartime president, and he looks tired. He looks a little unfocused, and I don't think that goes down well.
There could be something to that, yeah.
Maybe they blame him a little bit for weakness on the world stage that has allowed these conflicts.
I thought about that. I don't know if the average viewer that's taking part in polls associates what we've been talking about with the Obama-Biden weakness and appeasement on Iran with what we've seen. I don't think they're making that connection en masse.
But do they say if President Trump were still president, this would not have happened in the Middle East or in Ukraine?
Potentially. And there may be some truth to the way you're viewing it with he does look tired. But out of all of his foreign policy responses, I think we'd have to put this one at the top because the others were so horrific. I still think these numbers come down to, at the end of the day, people are not doing well economically. They don't have any hope for 2024, and he better pay attention to that because that's going to hurt him.
There's going to be other polls coming out soon, and we'll pay attention to them.